So you've really only got two choices in the way you live your life. You can be your own best ally, or you can be your own worst enemy. Unfortunately, our culture encourages the second one. It's pretty normal to have a crappy thought life. And we don't want that to be the case for you, or me, or anybody that really wants to succeed in their life. Because self talk, how we talk to ourselves each and every day, is the foundation of daily living. Whenever you get to the ground level, the cornerstone is how you think about yourself. So, today we're going to talk about why it's so key to get that better and some practical ways on how to do it today on the show. Hey, I'm Reese from thrivingman.com, and our goal is to help connect you with like-minded men and build a life that you can be proud of. The truth is, we want every guy to be able to build a thriving life. And so we can help as many people as possible. If today's content helps you, I would love for you to like it so it can be exposed to more people and share it with someone that you think it could assist. We've been going through this series on insecurity. And it's been a great series so far. We've discussed everything from what insecurity looks like and what some of the symptoms are, all the way to how to build healthy connections by letting go of your dependency on others and yet somehow still being vulnerable at the same time. It's a series that builds on itself. So if you haven't watched any of those episodes, go back and do that, because today we're dealing with everything happening in the mind. Because your mind is the cornerstone of your success in life. What you do up here defines how you live out there. If you've ever heard the phrase, "I'm my own worst enemy," sometimes that can apply to people's actions, but more often I think it applies to the way that we think about ourselves. So let me ask you that question. What do you think of you? What do you think of yourself up here? How do you talk to yourself up here? Because that's an absolute cornerstone for living life well. I've been watching this TV show. It's an anime that I've really been enjoying. It's called Blue Lock, and it follows this story of a guy named Isagi. And essentially, he loves soccer, but he's always been kind of mid-level in his soccer team. And he goes to this place called Blue Lock, and it's like single round elimination. 300 guys all trying to get to the top to be the number one soccer player. If you do that, you get to be the top striker for the country in the coming World Cup. And so he's fighting for his life. And what's so interesting to me is that a lot of it is not even about soccer. It's about how he sees himself. How he views himself is what's limiting his potential as a soccer player. Whether it's because he's ignorant of the way he thinks, or maybe it's because of the way that he views himself as a soccer player in general. There's a lot of these mental barriers he has to overcome. And of course, there's all the classic anime things of battling to the top and pushing through and all that good stuff. But that goes to show that even in something as practical as a sport, how we think of ourselves defines how well we perform. It's the same way in our practical life. So when I talk about self-talk, I'm not talking about lying to yourself. I'm not encouraging you to be ignorant of your actual performance in real life. We're just talking about the tone of how you handle success, failure, and the everyday. How you see yourself changes everything else. I want you to picture self-talk like a mental soundtrack. You know, when you watch a movie, the soundtrack has so much to do with it. One of my favorite composers is John Williams, because the songs he makes for stuff like Jurassic Park all the way over to Star Wars, it's what creates the moments that are so magical on the television screen. It's all about the soundtrack. The soundtrack's going in the background, and it makes the scenes incredible. Think of the way that you think as a soundtrack. What does your mental soundtrack look like throughout the day? Is it positive? Is it helpful? Is it destructive? Is it damaging? The soundtrack that plays in the background defines the way that we move within a space, even in stores. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to H&M, but they have like this cool club music playing 24/7. So when you walk around the store, you feel like it's a place that's fashionable. You feel like it's a place that you want to shop. Versus when you've got music playing at like a random supermarket, it's just kind of thrown in the background so that it's not completely silent. Doesn't really make the moment special in any way. Soundtracks make a difference, and your mental soundtrack is no exception. Let me give an example from my personal life. One of the negative soundtracks that I'll often have going in the background is perfectionism. I want to do things right. I want to do them the right way, the first time. I want to be the best in every area. I want to do everything perfectly. And a lot of times that has sabotaged me because in the background, I'll be so focused on what I'm not doing right that I'll end up missing the things that I am doing right. I remember in college, I was an RA, a residential assistant for a hall, and it was actually a really good time in my life, but I was so dialed in to the people on the hall that weren't engaged and were kind of just doing their own thing that I don't feel like I got to fully enjoy the people who really did want to hang out, the people who wanted to build relationships and make memories. I got so focused on what wasn't that I forgot what was. And I saw how I was an RA as a reflection of my own value. I had to get things right so that I could feel like I was doing good enough. It made things way more serious than they needed to be. In fact, I asked one of my friends how I could improve in my life, and they were like, dude, don't take yourself so seriously. That is perfectionism. That soundtrack was going on in my head, and it ended up making things a lot more difficult than it needed to be. How you think about yourself and the world around you completely defines how you navigate through that world. Let's talk a little bit about the bad day. Everybody has had what they would call a bad day before. But what's funny, your bad day, what you would define as a failure for a day, may be what someone else defines as success. A lot of it is going on up here. Let's take the example of rich and famous people that are miserable. They've accomplished more in their life and have a bigger influence on the world than I could ever dream, and yet they hate themselves. They don't see it as being enough. Their mental soundtrack says, I'm failing, I'm failing, I'm failing, versus a person who maybe has accomplished less than I have, a person who is a janitor or something very simple and yet absolutely loves what they do and is grateful and is happy for the people around them and embraces life and they see themselves well, they're having a great time. So clearly, our circumstances don't truly define our day or our life or our view of ourselves. A lot of it's the mental habits. Your mental soundtrack can be something that helps you so much. It can bring you joy in the everyday. It can make you more resilient. A lot of times, people who do well in life and take the punches and keep going are people who are doing well with their mental soundtrack. People who are confident in who they are and don't attach that to what's going on in their life. It can even increase your performance. Think about like a professional athlete. There are performance psychologists whose job is to help a pro golfer or a pro football player think more effectively because they know that when they think more effectively, they'll play more effectively. That's how it is in life. If we can think better, if the way that we talk to ourselves becomes healthier, our life will get better. Our attitude will get better. Our relationships will get better. So much of it has to do with what's going on up here. So you've got to learn how to talk to yourself. It's a skill you have to master because you're either going to end up discrediting your wins and saying they don't really matter, or you can end up discrediting your losses and saying, hey, this isn't forever, so I can keep going. So much of how we navigate the imperfections of life has to do with the mental soundtrack. If you want to be secure, you have to watch how you think because the tone of your mind sets the tone of your life. The tone of how you think sets the tone for how you behave in your everyday. So, how do we do that? First of all, I think we have to notice how we think. You have to begin to observe, how do I talk to myself? A lot of times we talk to ourselves very crappy and we don't even know that we are. It's just how we think, it's just natural for us. We have to begin to take what's going on in the background and bring it to the forefront if we're going to deal with it. So the first step is to begin to track your own thinking. Some guys journal, but if you're not really into that, you could even just set a scorecard. Hey, these were the times where I thought well today. These are the times where I thought bad today. Take 5 minutes at the end of your day and think through when you were thinking well or not. Or have a note on your phone where when you catch yourself thinking negatively or you catch yourself really killing it with a good thought, you can write that down in that note. We are just trying to bring awareness. It's not about perfectionism or tracking every single thought. It's about noticing patterns. Is the way that I think typically an asset to me, or is it harmful to me? Second, after we notice, then we need to begin to nurture our thoughts. What do I mean by this? I mean, watch what you watch. Watch your inputs. Pay attention to the shows you watch, the music you listen to, the things that are preoccupying your mind throughout the day. We need to begin to make the environment around us and the things that we are taking in to our mind be an asset and not a liability. In Psalm 1, it talks about the ideal Bible reader, and it says that they meditate on the law day and night. The Hebrew word for meditate isn't the same thing as like Eastern meditation where you're emptying your mind. It's taking a piece of truth from Scripture and continually replaying it again and again and again in your head. It's not just about learning information, it's about that information changing your reality. Scripture is a perfect place to start when it comes to putting good things in your head. It could also be positive and uplifting music or a good book. We want to begin to put things in our mind that make us more effective instead of that make us less effective. The final thing is lecture. You got to learn how to give yourself a good speech. You may say, Reese, that's cringy. I don't want to look in the mirror and tell myself I got this. I don't want to hype myself up like that. But I would rather you be cringy and helpful than to be cool and damaging yourself. I don't really care how you feel about it. The truth is, if you don't know how to talk to yourself and give yourself a good, solid lecture to pick yourself back up and keep going and endure, you're not going to be resilient. You're not going to be effective in your life. If what happens to you causes you to self-destruct up here, then you're going to be fragile in every way. And so what I want you to begin to do is learn how to talk to yourself effectively. When you have a day that you're tired, give yourself a little speech. That can be looking in a mirror, or you can just play it up here and intentionally think to yourself, no, I got this. I faced this a million times before. I'm going to be fine. I have everything I need to overcome whatever situation this may be. Or if you've got something ahead of you that you're worried about, you say, hey, I got to let it go. I got to let it go. Me worrying about it will not change anything. I'm going to release that. Or maybe you think to yourself, I made a mistake. You give yourself a speech and say, hey, you're better than that. However, you can keep going. If you said a wrong thing to your spouse, let's go apologize. We can go do it. We need to begin to practice giving ourselves good lectures, because if you aren't intentional about what you say to yourself, you're going to fall into that negative narrative that almost our entire culture has going on. Now, once again, I'm not talking about self-deception and saying like, you're doing a great job when really you aren't even trying. What we're saying here is take the reality in front of you and talk to yourself in a good way. We've got to divorce our performance from our own personal sense of self-worth. We've talked about that in previous episodes, but this is really where the rubber meets the road in that subject. How you talk to yourself. is going to totally change the tone of your life. So, those are a few pieces of advice you need to notice, you need to nurture, and you need to lecture. Work on applying that over the next few days. My goodness, if you need it, work on applying it over the next few months or years even. It will pay dividends in the long term. If you liked this, once again, like it on YouTube, share it with your friends, anybody that you think it would help. And if you want more resources, go to thrivingman.com. I'll see you in the next episode.